I don't know if I should be excited or if I should just cry. Hello my drones, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Murder Drones is coming to an end and I really don't know what I'm supposed to think of it. Like, this video is probably called something every insane detail you missed in the Murder Drones trailer to episode 8 or something, you know, for the sweet juicy clickbait views. And although I'm going to get to that part, I just quickly want to talk about the fact that this is it. That is the finale, not the season finale, the finale. And also this trailer doesn't have that much to cover because most of it is either obvious or doesn't leave much to talk about. But like, you're either in two mindsets right now. Either you're excited that Murder Drones finally gets the finale, or you're like me and you're sad that Murder Drones ends. And to everyone that is excited for the ending, I'm truly jealous of you, because for you every day gets more exciting than the last one. But for me and probably some other people, it's more like a doomsday clock, and I really can't imagine a world without Murder Drones anymore. And originally I never wanted to say that in a video because I was afraid my parents might hear about it, but Murder Drones quite literally saved my life at some point, and I really don't want to talk about it, but just know during this entire recording I'm very close to tears. And like, I really can't imagine the future for either me or the franchise in general. Like, I do say people like Animated The Thing and fan projects will keep this series alive, but like, I don't know how many people will stay after the main show ends. And even on the YouTuber side, I'm unsure, because already on this day of recording, your local YouTuber just announced that he's quitting. Like, I never watched his videos, but he's kinda a big face of the community, so it is difficult to imagine trying to stay here. And on Twitter, Liam Vickers said the same thing I'm always saying, that Murder Drones has still much more story to tell, but I must give credit where it's due. I don't have Twitter, and I have this screenshot from Bloopers.
Liam! Make a season 2 of Murder Drones, and my life is yours!
And although I don't say a season 2 is or ever will be possible, but I do think the potential for a spin-off in the same universe is enormous and just a lost opportunity if you don't take it. But whatever, I just wanted to mention that. Anyways, let's go into the analysis. The trailer starts out with a slow-mo fade of the PC we saw in the beginning of episode 7, with multiple clips of the show and some voices of the character in the background. Most of the voice lines are just some epic ones for the atmosphere, but I do want to point out a few I can't quite remember out the top of my head, which could be new. I just play the clip entirely and put a little new banner in the top if I think these voice lines are new.
Absolute silver? We don't know everything yet. We're not gonna hurt you, okay?
Oh, what the hell is going on?
Promise me you and that purple thing will stop prying into that stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about because you won't tell me!
Why would a worker drone... Was she eating them?
Aren't you worried we have no idea what we even are?
The humans here thought they could understand it. All they did was spread it.
Now the silver's found its way back to finish the job.
And after that, there's just a one-liner of Sin where she tried to control N again, back in episode 7, but that is not important to show. The other thing is important to show. The first clip is kinda of a jump scare of tentacles grabbing itself out of a hole, which is super interesting. I come to that later, but the walls of the hole are filled with typical solver spines or some wires and stuff like that, but the tentacles itself are pure glowing energy, which probably stems from the core. Maybe Sin tried to get to the core to get powered up or something else I already said, going to mention later. Next clip is a picture of Sin where she's double winking, which is still super messed up that Sin wears Tessa's skin, but like, that is super funny. On Glitch, by the way. I'm just saying. Up next we have a clip of Uzi standing somewhere and being shocked. I don't know, this could be the laboratory, this also could be the bunker, but I probably would say the laboratory. And the fact that Uzi is back on Earth, I say to it later if we come to the fall of Uzi, but we can also see a bloody oil stain on her face. We know that the walker drones, or at least the solver drones, can regenerate, and most of the time they have oily spots there where they generated. So maybe Uzi got hurt, oh she needed some oil. Up next we see a bunch of floating pages with all the drawings of Nori and Uzi. I already knew all those pictures and stuff are going to be true, and Nori predicted the future, and I also wanted to do a video on it, but I just never did. But up next we get some Jay screen time, yippee! To be honest, I just hope she gets some character development. In this frame she looks very desperate, and she's aiming her rocket at something, probably Tessin as we see later, which is implying that Jay is fighting on the side of our team. However, a theory presents it because Jay hasn't overwritten the solver program by Uzi yet, means she could get taken over by Sin. This theory is also enhanced by Glitch's new spanner where Tessin and Jay are in the same frame together. And I just wanted to mention that I love all the little small details on the new rocket launcher. Up next we see the exposed core of the planet and a spaceship flying through. And of course we see those giant tentacles now because we are in space now. That means the tentacles we saw at first were small, but those are really enormous. And there could be two possibilities. Either the spaceship is controlled by Jay because we last saw her in a spaceship, or it is controlled by N because he used to be a pilot, but I doubt that. Either way, they are there to save Uzi from space. And speaking about that, you can see there's one tentacle that is pulling the spaceship back towards Copper 9, but you can also see that Uzi is straight falling back into the atmosphere and thus also catching fire, which is the most... I hated this change always. It feels exactly like the cliffhanger in episode 7 and 6, so we expected something big and, at least my way, got disappointed immensely because we sent Uzi into space through probably an explosion, maybe she got teleported, but then she falls back down to Earth and then we just continue the plot as nothing ever happened. Up next we see Uzi with her railgun, and that basically means at some point she's going to reconnect with her dad, or maybe the dad will just drop the railgun and Uzi will pick it up. That's not unlikely at this point, to be honest. But also very interesting to notice that you can see a pinecone tree in the distance, which means this scene is outside of cabin fever, or at least in the woods. Imagine we see one of Uzi's dad's classmates. That would be extremely cool. And by the way, if I'm rushing those segments, that is because I just want to cover all of them and then make a big conclusive theory someday later. Next up we see Sinessa down in the same clip where Uzi was earlier with the oil in her face, and she uses the solver to enhance her body with tentacles and stuff and break the light for some creepy scenes, I hope. Up next we see Jay, which is actually a very interesting scene because it isn't a scene where she's aiming probably at Sinessa, but she's screaming out something and has something interesting on her visor. I always love if something interesting happens on the visor of the assembly drones. I kinda missed the one big X, but whatever. But most interesting is if you look at the background, there's something breaking through. There's where my wild theory for this video comes in. I think Sin split into two parts in this final episode. One part is some form of Eldritch solver core that is slotted into the planet's core and grows large, and those are all the tentacles and also those things that are trying to break behind Jay, and also into Sinessa, who is using the solver to keep the disassembly drones and Uzi at bay so they can't stop her plans or something. Again, big theory coming soon, hopefully. The next clip is Sin raising one of the tentacles of her for injuring blow. Kinda reminds me of the fight scene between Uzi and N in the last episode, but there the punch wasn't lethal. But you can see that they are outside. I come to that later. But maybe because this is the finale, one of the main characters will die, and this is the scene where it is about to be killed off. Personally, I criticize Mother Drones a lot for killing of major characters, proper story closures, but I think because it's the finale, Uzi could die here, and she's like the only character that has enough development for me to say she could die without me complaining about it. But maybe probably it's going to be N that will die in the end and Uzi will survive this hit, but N will sacrifice him in the long run or something like that. Up next we can see Tessin's messed up foot on the railing where we originally went down into the laboratory, and she's glitching, which basically is just a teleporting, nothing new. We have already seen Doll and her doing it. Up next we can see Tessin dodging said rocket I was talking about with Jay, but I have to mention, at first glance this looks like she's just floating in the fog or is like mid-air, but actually this is not true because you can see Tessin standing outside in the snow, which means she has to fight N, because the couple of next frame is N also standing outside in the fog and with snowflakes you can barely see around his face, and also there's a frame where N suddenly gets from a serious fighting mood into absolute terror. I'm probably assuming this is either to dodge an attack that is incoming to him, or he's witnessing Uzi getting injured or something, or maybe Jay getting taken over by Sin, or which many people assume that in the trailer the little creature that Sin is eating, that maybe V dies finally again. But finally there are the last few clips that really not much to talk about, and turning around to look at something. That is a scene that pretty often happens. Only thing interesting to note is that he is in the laboratory, so it's interesting. I see currently 3 phases of the episode: down in the laboratory, on top of the surface, and in the space. And I think each characters will switch up where they are, but I doubt they will be at the same time in the same place, because this is kinda how Glitch structured its stories lately. Last things are Uzi getting pinned against the wall with an hand of an Eldritch monster. Personally, what I would love to see if Eldritch reappears and Uzi think it's a threat at first, but it turns out she is good on her side but gets killed by Sin or maybe something like that. But it would be a cool thing to have like a casual conversation that Uzi's talking to like something we saw in episode 2. Also interesting is when Tessa dodges the missile, she can't be seen with hands, but in this scene a hand is grabbing against Uzi. And lastly we see the spaceship flying through space and Khan making a funny expression to mock someone, maybe the fight with Jay. And at last there's this little scene where Sin seemingly pushes or tries to grab Uzi. I doubt she's going to try to grab her because I'm crowding her. She doesn't need that host anymore. Her new host body is Tessin, so maybe she pushes her somewhere. This kind of looks like the bottom of the hole again, so maybe she tries to assemble Uzi entire to the core, because my theory is the absolute solver is everything related to black holes, and black holes have a singularity. The absolute solver wants to conclude everything that is related to him in that singularity, which also means Uzi because she is actively using the solver program, but more likely Uzi is getting pushed, so maybe this is her final blow. I would doubt she would be actually teased or we would actually see images, because we didn't see images close to V's death. But overall what's interesting is here I talked about the 3 phases, but this kinda could be anywhere, like either down in the laboratory in the hole, it could be up in space with the reddish tint and the space rocks, but it could also be somewhere in between the surface and space. So it's very interesting to say that. You may be noticing how the editing and my mood got worse and worse throughout the video. That is the reason, because I recorded all of this in one day and edited it in also one day, just because analyses tend to pop off more if they are posted early, and because I have seen most other Murder Drones YouTubers posted their ones already. So I just wanted to catch the last few breaths of attention before my channel drops off eventually. But that was it with the video. I said I would show fan art in the end of my videos, and I kinda thought of, if I don't have a funny outro skit or something, I put up this screen of my Murder Drones franchise shelf and just fade the fan art over top with the credit in the bottom. But I hope you have a great day, and remember, I found this really sweet comment while editing this video, so I wanted you to be able to read it because I think it fits the message quite well.